Okay, response video. Dorky guy says it's going to be his last video on antinatalism. Says he's busy, can't really do any of this stuff, but then he wants to Skype. I don't know. Very strange. So maybe I'll Skype him just for the hell of it. He calls himself the Scientist Sam. Okay, so he's claiming scientific integrity of some kind, and yet I don't think he gets it. I don't think he gets science at all. Anyway, logic does not equal antinatalism. Isn't that cute? Little does not equal sign. Does not equal sign does not equal proof. Yes, that's right. It doesn't. Yeah, so I'll do that. Does not equal sign does not equal proof. It doesn't equal anything. It's a gimmick. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so now he's making his face. He's going to say the word antinatalism. He's going to make a face.
It's just boring, and
yeah, whatever. Yeah, right. Meaning of life. Yeah, it's a boring subject for the old scientists. You know, whether or not the biological organism is just basically a replicating molecule, and people just have phantasmagorical, nonsensical notions of function and purpose. No, that shouldn't concern scientists at all. That's just boring drivel-dravel.
I found that the people that aren't antinatalists are kind of religious about it.
I find that the people like you are petty and weaselly about it. Yeah. And so this religious accusation, again, you can't get more emphatically anti-God if you're insulting the creation, right? I mean, that's essentially as ungodly as you could possibly get. No religion in the history of mankind has been a religion based on the fact that God sucks, if it existed. Except maybe Satanism. But then Satan's cool, so it's always one of these figures. Somehow in the creation there's something good about it, somewhere. So I mean, it just doesn't go anywhere. It's just such a nonsensical accusation to start with. What is our inaccurate perception? Oh, that it's a replicating molecule, replicating for the sake of replication, creating need machines that don't need to exist. Again, you haven't dealt with any of these subjects. You're just an evasive slanderer, right? Pretty much. Calling us religious? What the fuck is that? No, you're double religious, dorkhead.
That's not, again, not blanket. That's blanket statements not necessarily true, but...
Not necessarily true, then why just say it? What is the point of it? Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. There's no point except to insult people, you stupid fuck. So, yes, if you've effectively insulted me, I'm going to respond with the effectively... The sensible response to an insult is, yeah, well, fuck you too, dork.
I found some quirky things in this video.
Oh, fuck you.
That I'm responding
Get to it, then.
I thought that I'd address them.
Yeah, please.
So, in order, I want to go through the Benatar's asymmetry. And two, some of the...
Well, you're not going to get very far with Benatar's asymmetry, okay? Just not. It's just fundamental, fail-safe, rational logic. The same kind of document could be written about a nuclear power, for example, and especially if nuclear power didn't produce any energy, anything of real value. It was just some sort of made-up stuff. Then it would be really easy to just make this argument that not making nuclear power plants eliminates all the negative potential, and making them and not making them doesn't lose you anything because you don't need anything that losing would... You need to create the need machine to need the nuclear energy. You know, basically you need to create a machine that needs to be fed the fuel for you to need the fuel. But if you don't make the machine that needs the fuel, then you can't need the fuel, and therefore you can't be doing anything that you're going to ever have a loss at. I mean, it's just obvious. But okay, go ahead, play the game.
Language that my misery and me uses, and then three, my own personal thoughts on the subject. So
yeah,
first,
please, get to it.
Doesn't really attack my logical critique, which, to be fair, is not entirely my own. Only parts of it are my own.
It's not a logical critique. Your logical critique is that the future doesn't exist. Well, yeah, that's true, but it still has a welfare, you idiot. We're still going to influence it.
A good part of it is Cabrera's bioethical treatment of it, and...
Yeah, which Benatar takes care of on his own website, and which, again, is based on this idiotic notion that the non-existent don't have rights, which is idiotic.
That is, I think, to me, much better than I could put it. I quoted the paper directly. And
no sale.
It takes a bit of know-how to understand. I had to read it several times because I'm not horribly great with academic philosophy. I, really haven't taken a ton of high-level courses. I've taken...
Oh, come on. The logic is just basic. Don't make a mess. You don't have to clean up a mess. Is that hard to figure out? And the only thing you have to come up with is a counter-argument is some reason why it's not a mess that we're making, that we're actually accomplishing something. I gave you the examples. I made the simple argument. Explain to me why we don't miss the Martians, and why we don't miss the Venetians, and why don't we miss the Moonicans. That's right, because they have no value, just as we would have no value if they existed and we didn't exist. That your perception of value is just that, a projection of value. There's no real merit here. You create monsters that need, okay, then you have an excuse to satisfy their needs. Well, if you just don't create them, then you don't have to satisfy their needs, because their needs are synthetic. They're contrived. They're empty. They're vacuous.
He kind of curtly dismisses this, and he says, well, it just codifies intuition. And I remember I asked Snake Plisskenist how he dealt with these people. And
these people? Now, why don't you try dealing with the argument, jackass? I mean, God, it's just a weaselly line how he deals with these people. Yeah, these people saying things like replication for the sake of replication isn't a really good idea. You really should have a better excuse than self-justifying logic. Damn.
It was very curious because he said that, they're very like religious people, and I noticed.
Oh, here we go again. Somebody should just. I fart in your direction. I would like to do it quite actually. I mean, there should be a button on this fucking computer where I could just fart in your direction. I mean, it's just such a nonsensical and idiotic notion. You're the one with the religious... Look at you, idiot. You're all struggling. How do I communicate? Because, I don't really have a counter-argument. That's what your problem... No, why you're making that face is because you don't have a rational argument. You're just like the God-botherers who's trying to find an excuse. You're just contriving bullshit to find a defense for your stupid, idiotic existence. You're whatever. You're a bug. A fucking bug.
That in a lot of his reasoning. In the sense that, and this is not all religious people, is that he takes an intuition, such as, well, God created the universe because there had to be a beginning.
And who did that? Nobody here. Nobody I know.
And it doesn't actually and in this case, it's that it's better that you don't exist. And then doesn't really rigorously analyze it, and then they dismiss it as being purely academic. It's when you discuss the nature of causality with a layman, theist who hasn't actually examined the position entirely.
So what is your theory of causality that would have any connection to this conversation? The cause is a replicating molecule, okay? Right? 4 billion years of modifications to a replicating molecule to make it basically into a great white shark. I mean, if terrestrial life forms never existed on planet Earth, that would be the smartest thing wandering around, would be a great white shark. Is that something to be proud of? I don't think so.
Argument. But it's the same thing here. You say, well, it works intuitively. Well, our intuitions are crap. I mean, psychology, that's what a lot of intro psych is. I've taken intro psych. The human condition psychologically is one that we can't trust it, so we have to look at it logically.
Well, I don't know where anybody's arguing from intuition, so I think you got that way wrong. I never saw I haven't seen a Jay Sounder video where he argues from intuition.
Ultimately, as it stands, the counterfactual, the asymmetry is not a true counterfactual. And that just kind of wrecks it. You talk about... Right,
it's a simple fail-safe argument. Don't make a mess, you don't have to clean up a mess. Duh. What do you lose by not making the mess? What is the value of the mess? You're arguing the value is the value of Martians, or the values of Venetians, or the value of Munich-ians, that somehow I'm supposed to see that value. I'm supposed to rationally see it. I can put on a piece of paper, make a logical argument why the universe is diminished because there aren't any people on Venus. I don't think you can make that rational argument. You want to write a paragraph about how the universe is diminished because there aren't, 17 tentacled, 4 eyeballed, 14 penised Venus instances? You want to explain to me? There's no great white sharks on Venus. You want to explain to me how the universe is diminished because there aren't? Please, I'd love to hear it.
I talked about earlier that there's this idea that you have two possible beings. You have the existent and the non-existent. But the non-existent doesn't really fall into the same class as the existent.
Oh, look, you can't understand simple time dilation scenarios where you basically understand that time is a continuum, that cause and effect is a continuum. It must have time for a cause and effect to take place. And so the fact is they will exist. You're just calling them something else now because you're deciding on whether they will or will not exist. They can't obviously exist before you decide whether they're going to exist. It's impossible for them to exist before you decide whether they're going to exist, and then they'd be existing, and then you'd be killing them. And the subject is antinatalism. It's about creating. You can't talk about creating without talking about something that'll happen in the future. Of course, the thing that will be created doesn't exist yet, stupid. Fuck. You can't create it if it already exists, shit for brains.
As a possible being, in that it doesn't contain any of the properties of a possible being.
It doesn't contain any of the properties of a possible being, except you're talking about the very fact that you're going to take the sperm and mix it with the egg and create the thing that's going to be the possible being. But no, it doesn't have any of the properties of a possible being. Like there could be such a thing as a possible being. Fuck, this is really inane.
And it's sort of this...
as soon as you think of something, you have potentialed it. It's the first step to making something is to think of it. If I think about a folded piece of paper or a crumpled paper towel, then I can crumple a paper towel, and there it is, crumpled paper towel. Thinking's the first step to creating.
But existent at the same time, but it can't be. It doesn't really work so well from a strictly logical sort of academic argument.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it works really well to accept the fact that the future doesn't exist now and will exist in the future. Yeah, that's not very hard to grasp.
Share basis. And that's an issue, because I think that the asymmetry is the backbone of your argument.
Oh, whatever. You think. Well, you don't think very well for a scientist. Okay, there's lots of arguments. Lots of them. There's the imposition argument. There's the asymmetry. There's the replication for the sake of replication. The futility and purposeless argument. There's lots of arguments, shithead.
Why? Because the rest of it follows quite well. The reason the asymmetry works is because it provides a blanket means as to saying that all life has a preferable state that we don't have to worry about.
No, what it concedes is that all life has no function, and that your safest bet, because it does have a downside risk, you can acknowledge the fact that it can be in a negative state, that there's no point in potentially risking the danger. If you're rolling dice at Las Vegas, and the prize for rolling the dice is nothing, and the risk for rolling the dice is losing your house, well, any asshole can figure out, let's not roll the dice.
Versus, even if you consider existence and non-existence equal, which I think is a completely defensible point of view that I don't necessarily disagree with in certain contexts.
Well, then you're really in big fucking trouble, all right? If you're going to concede the fact that there's no advantage to existence, and then you're going to have to negate the fact that there's negative paid for it, that there is violent negative, there is horrifically negative. And I don't know how the hell you're going to do that except to be some sort of nihilist, insane motherfucker who's going to deny the existence of suffering. Well, go ahead, do that, because you're an idiot.
you know, even if you take that, it doesn't necessarily follow, because if non-existence isn't always preferable, or, you know, if it isn't always the preferable option, you can create good lives and you can create bad lives, and then it's all about rational analysis, which is what I'm for. That's
yeah, right. Like somebody else is arguing for something else. Everybody else is arguing for what the net product is, asshole. And still, with all your good life thing, again, you're not talking about good lives. You're just talking about lives that are more enjoyable for the participant, the one enjoying the life. Not explaining how the life is somehow a true benefit to life in general or to the universe, absolutely. So you still haven't explained how your good life is truly good. It's just saying a life that comes into existence without necessarily being deprivated or unnecessarily harmed in any significant or major way, which is not even a practical creation. But even if you could create such a creation, you'd still have no excuse for creating it, because it still doesn't serve any function. It's still as useless as a Martian.
what I say. But he brings up a lot of good points that follow this that I don't actually disagree with. And I will get to that soon. But now I want to tackle what I think is kind of the worst thing about euphemism, and it's this sort of garbage language use.
Right, garbage language use. This ought to be interesting. So this is, I mean, this really comes down to, here, I'm sitting here arguing that these words are totally fucked up, like love, like random, like spontaneous. They have no value as communication devices. They have no definition. They have no function. They can't serve as rational, logical communicating fuel. They will only, it's like water and gasoline. That's what these words are. These words pollute the value of communication toxically.
For example, you said that we're a slave to DNA. That's kind of taking the semantic meaning of slavery completely out of context. That's not...
Oh, what? It's a metaphor, shithead. People use the word slave for all kinds of things, even in mechanical processes, where, you know, some function will be a slave to the original function, you know, because this thing does its thing, and then that thing is forced to harmonize with that thing, so it ends up being a slave to it. I mean, it's used in all kinds of computer science, the term's used. It's a metaphor, okay? A metaphor. Jesus.
What slavery means, even as a metaphor, it doesn't really work, and I don't know.
Well, I think it works incredibly when you consider how the DNA molecule has basically composed the entire machine that we are, and that the mechanism is decidedly self-serving and self-defining in terms of this purpose mission again. It creates the need, it creates the capacity to project this value, that it chases this stupid Cheeto. The illusion of the value of the thing you desire is quite obviously contrived by nature, by your DNA molecule. You don't sit there and say, yes, I think it's a good idea to do this, this, and this because it's intrinsically valuable. No, you do it because you have a desire. Man, I mean, if that isn't slavery, if that isn't the puppet having its strings pulled by the DNA molecule, pretty damn clear. And here you're a biologist, and you don't understand biology. You don't understand that what you desire has been built by your innate biology, essentially, fundamentally. And man, you're really dumb.
What you mean by it? There's all, I've heard Amendment say this, and it doesn't really make sense. Then there's also...
I said words like owned by the DNA. I don't think I said slave, to tell you the truth. But it doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. The DNA molecule has written the hardware. Most of our conditioning has been dictated by it in terms of the innate bigotries, the prejudices, the preferences are essentially going to be written whether we like it or not. You're going to want it, and there's not much you can do about that. You're either going to want, brown food or green food, but you're stuck wanting or needing the food.
When you say stuff like, life is broken, again, life.
Broken is merely another metaphorical word just to describe something that isn't functioning at peak efficiency. So if I make, if I'm an architect and I build a building and it's a piece of shit, it's just a piece of shit. Now I didn't build it broken in the explicit sense. Somebody didn't break it. I mean, I built it and then they hit it with a hammer and broke it. But it was broken from its design. Its initiation was broken in the sense that it didn't obey reasonable rules of architecture or the physical gravity. It didn't obey the laws of gravity. Didn't obey the laws of physics to optimize its efficient function. It's poor design, and effectively it's broken from some sort of good standard. I mean, you could say that about even a car or anything else. A bad design you call broken. A lemon, right? I mean, these metaphors are understandable. I don't think anybody's going to go, oh, well, lemons are fruit. You can't say the word lemon to describe a car. No one's going to play that much of a pussy little girl game, are they? Oh, yeah, they are. That's the only argument they got is little pussy girl games. Fucking sissy.
Is, you know, if life is broken, then that means that either at some point it was fixed or there's some way to fix it.
No, it doesn't mean either one of those things. It just means that it's not sufficiently efficient. It means it's not suitable to its purpose. It's not good enough. That isn't a complicated sentence. It's not good enough. Doesn't mean it can be fixed. Tic-tac-toe isn't a good enough game for a smart person to play. Doesn't mean it can be fixed.
Broken's one of those words that's defined by.
Yeah. Well, look. People use the word intelligent design. You know, the creationists. So the alternative would be unintelligent design, and that's what we're stuck with: unintelligent design. Now, are you going to say that something designed by an unintelligent designer, somebody stupid, a retard, wouldn't be fundamentally broken because of the fact that they don't have the skills necessary to design it correctly or build it correctly? Come on, this isn't that hard to do.
Defined by its converse. You know, it's, you know, you can't, for example, you can't technically have anything that's cold without anything that's hot.
Well, again, so this is just semantics, okay? You're going to just waste time with this little pussy girl semantics crap. There's lots of words we use to describe things when they are not doing what they need to do. And nobody sits there and says, oh, well, the opposite of a lemon is a lime. No, they don't bother with this bullshit.
Because cold is something that's an absence of heat. Although, you know, you can make an argument with senses, but my point is stick.
Yeah, you can make an argument like, oh yeah, women are. It said, oh yeah, a woman is frigid. Yeah, because it's sort of implied, you know. Yeah, but it's a metaphor, shit. It doesn't mean that they're really cold.
With, for example, if you look at the argument from design, it falls apart for theists very instantly because design is defined as being contrasted with things that are undesigned. So if you say the whole universe is designed, then you lose the entire contrast. It falls apart on its own semantics. That's why when...
Well, whatever. That's exactly... So you're just going to play semantics game. No, the reason why religion falls apart is because they're saying a fucking entity that they say exists, and they have no evidence for it. That's what falls apart, is they say God exists, but there's no evidence of God existing, you stupid fuck. That's where it falls apart, you shit for brain. Fucking A, where's your evidence that the Martians need to exist?
You say life is broken. I'm not sure that strengthens your argument because that implies that there's either a way to fix it or it was fixed in the past.
It doesn't imply either one to anybody rational, okay? You want to just play you want to play the word games. I don't know what to say to you, okay? Yes, we can use technical jargon in every conversation, and if I hold you to that same standard, I don't think you're going to like it, fucker. I really don't. I don't think you're going to like it. I mean, I can say insufficiently efficient. I have said it in videos. It doesn't exactly sing, but I can do that. But I don't think you're going to obey the same rules. I think you're going to use metaphorical language. And assholes should call you on it every goddamn time. They should waste 3 minutes of a goddamn video whining about fucking semantics.
My intuition tells me it's not fixed in the past, because let's look at the past. That was, in...
Well, obviously, in no one's video are they arguing that it was fixed in the past. So again, this is such a fucking straw man. So you take a fucking word, abuse it, by totally ignoring the context of its use, like a lemon describing a broken car or or not a very good car, and you're just going to sit there now and say, well, where in the car design where did they plant trees? Where are these lemon trees? Well, fuck you, girl.
In the words of Thomas
Pussy.
Hobbes, nasty, brutish, and short. That's what social science.
Straw man, straw man, straw man. What antinatalist is arguing that life went from being really good and then just turned shitty, like Wednesday, July 3rd, whatever, 1500 BC or something.
Bears out. I learned that in Steven Pinker's most recent book. Excellent book. Please read it. But yeah, it's...
Please slip on dog
shit.
shit.
Always say that. Is a little kooky.
Oh dear, that was a really girly thing to say. Kooky. It's a little bit kooky. To use metaphorical language. Okay, what's insufficiently efficient? How's that? Insufficiently efficient.
And you do that a lot with language. I'm not going to go through each instance, but I want to know, what does it mean that life is broken?
It means it's inefficiently efficient, which I've said in like at least 100 videos. I've used that term, 50 videos anyway. 50 videos I've used the term insufficiently efficient. Yep.
Does it mean that we're a slave to DNA? It's just very...
It means we're a slave to an ignorant process that has us caught up in a cycle of eating our own ass. And it's humiliating and stupid.
Sloppy, and it's this word salad that when you actually look at it and deconstruct it, you're using words in a way that they don't really work.
Well, says you. Most people, I think, understand the concept, and yeah, if they want to be petty weasels and try to back out of the argument because they can't counter argue, then they'll play the semantics game. So bravo. I've seen creationists resort to the semantics crap.
There's the third point where you kind of go on a bit that I want to address. I agree with you on a lot of stuff. Obviously, with euthanasia, I think you have a right to bodily autonomy, and that includes the right to die. Whether there would be rational
not the subject
plans for extinguishing the species. That's iffy. If it's tenable, it'd be hard to do it in a non-forcible way. And I don't necessarily need to deconstruct that. I give the example of...
Well, exactly how do you have a kid without forcing your way? You know what I'm saying? You kind of basically force it into existence. You don't get consent. You don't do any of that stuff. You just kind of drag it into the game, and it realizes, oh, fuck, you're my parents? Oh, damn. Yeah.
Surgery. And you can actually just change that to be involuntary surgery that will definitely have side effects. A good example is Dr. House's surgery. That was done without any of his input. That caused definite harm, and he ended up regretting it and hating it. I mean, all you have to do is add the correct modifiers.
Well, why this presumption? Again, so because biology gave me a sperm, that means I have some right to go out and do biological experiments. I could shoot my sperm into anything I felt like it, right? Because you're not going to say that nature necessarily said I can't stick my penis in anything. And what if I could stick it in something else and create some sort of bastardized half-man, half-gorilla thing or something? That's my right merely because I have a penis, right? I can't think at all about the process of creation and say, wait a minute, am I competent to create? Am I competent to take responsibility for the creation of something else that may or may not find what I've done to be a good idea? No, of course I can do that. And this is just a bullshit argument, this presumption that there's intrinsically a right because of the creation of biology, that biology gives us rights. No, not even close.
The asymmetry is removed. That's actually a really good critique of this argument. And, also, it's the whole problem. There are a lot of utilitarian issues that I think stem from when because it's sort of considering the act in a vacuum in terms of something being born, and I don't think you can necessarily say that. But there's...
Well, a vacuum, it's a vacuum from the point of view of the thing being victimized. It certainly hasn't said, please, please, save me, save me. That's not a rational argument. If somebody says I want to have a baby because I think it's trapped in purgatory and I want to save it, that's not a rational argument, is it?
The whole thing that you do, where you complain, essentially, about how life sucks, and I can actually empathize with that. I did not have the easiest time, even as early as a few years ago, and, for example, last year I had a whole thing that wasn't fun. But I don't,
Well, I really, see, again, this anecdotal, personal, but I still think I have a purpose and a mission, and I'm the little train that could, and I'm going to go chewing up the hill and go down the hill and then go up the hill and go down the hill and go up the hill until I get old and my wheel falls off and then I crash and burn, but I don't die, just sit there and moan for a while. Yeah, but I'm going to do that because that's what I think is cool. Well, I don't think it's cool. I think it's stupid. I don't think you have any right to put any new trains on the old tracks there, buddy. Go ahead and do your little chewy thing, okay? The argument is there a rational reason to force it on somebody else, buddy? That's the question. Can you write me a paragraph explaining why we need Martians? If you can't explain why we need Martians, then I don't think you can explain why we need humans.
Again, it's sort of like you're choosing to see it a certain way.
Yeah, the logical way, like the way where you say, oh wait, there's a big mess on the floor. How did it get there? Do we really need it to be there? And if we don't need it to be there, then maybe we ought to just clean it up and quit making it. Yeah, good idea.
Life can definitely be difficult. I've been broke. I am.
Oh yeah, more of this little personal, anecdotal, blah, 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 blah. It's not the subject. Antinatalism, fucker. The subject is nataling. Having children. Deciding that your penis gives you the right to decide for somebody else that they're going to like being alive.
Okay. I've been in poor health before.
This isn't relevant. It's not very scientific. It's broken logic.
I had my issues with depression.
The argument from personal circumstances isn't a very good argument. It's a broken argument.
Bipolar, so of course that's happening.
It's a lemon of an argument.
Keeping it managed, knock on wood, but it's managed. But there's this whole host of things that it's essentially just you bitching about life.
Oh, well, that's the argument from you're just bitching. Everybody just loves to do that. You're just a bitchy, whiny pussy. Well, you're just a fucking bitchy, whiny pussy. You can't deal with the subject. You didn't make one fucking rational argument in this goddamn video. You whined about semantics. You goddamn pussy, girly, whiny bitch.
I completely understand it. If life's tough, it is tough. And, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be an asshole and say,
Yeah, you are going to be an asshole. You're basically saying, well, I just don't, you can't be saying anything emphatically. I mean, so what if somebody's born really bad? Not a little bit bad like me, but really, really horrible and awful. Well, that's just too bad because somebody needed to do it. And all they have to do is have a need. As long as they have a penis, they can make babies. It's their choice.
Your life's any easier than anyone else's. I don't necessarily believe that, but...
Antinatalism, okay? His life he's already stuck here, jackass. That's not the subject. The subject is there any reason to make new ones? Do we need more of them? Do we have to keep doing the experiment over and over and over? Is the experiment ever going to do anything different? Is it? Is it going to do something it hasn't already done enough times already? I don't think it is.
At some point, you do have to realize that it's not that good lives exist, happy people exist. and that suffering's not the only thing.
Well, it's the only thing that is the payment, okay? The point is that that's the payment, and the happy people aren't producing anything to compensate for the pain. And if you really had to buy this shit ahead of time, there's no way you'd pull it off the shelf. If you knew ahead of time exactly what was going to happen, all right, you wouldn't pull it off the shelf. It's only a delusion of hope that keeps people playing the game. Hope, 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 which is not a rational emotion.
Life, and suffering's not always a bad thing. I can bring up...
Oh, well, no, that's just no point in doing that, is there? It's not necessarily a bad thing. We're not talking about your not necessarily bad suffering, which I don't know exactly what that would be, like the suffering of, what, somebody who dies so the rest of the people could eat his carcass and survive or something? I don't know, some stupid reason why you think suffering is good.
Examples, again, that's more in depth than I want to go into, but it's hard to see antinatalism and euphilism as anything other than sort of bitching about how miserable you are.
Well, whatever. If that's hard for you to do, if you can't understand that there is a little bit of a problem here philosophically for the world, factually, that our bastard origins of replicating molecule, replicating for the sake of replicating, 4 billion years of effective gladiator war, whatever metaphor you want to put it on, carnage, a battle where relatively similar living things rip the shit out of each other to steal their energy so they can replicate a copy of themselves and call themselves winners and losers, right? And 99% of them can go extinct, and there's somehow refinement to create bigger teeth on the great white shark and schemier little weaselly brains on one little primate monkey. And you don't think that that should give people a little bit of pause where they'd say, wait a minute, is that all we're doing here? And the truth is, that's all we're fucking goddamn doing here, shit for brains. And if your scientific brain can't be a little bit humbled by that, then I think you've got a problem, fucker. That's not just bitching. That's a problem. You know, Houston, we got a problem? Yeah, well, this fucking mission has a fucking problem. God, you insensitive asshole.
I've never, maybe I'm incorrect, but I've never met a happy antinatalist. Happy, what does that mean? What does that mean, you shit for brain? You're making this little whiny, bitchy, mopey video. You don't seem very fucking happy, shit for brains. Should I call you an unhappy person because your video seems all whiny and cryy and mopey? I mean, it's just stupid. It's a stupid even scientific concept, happy. What does that mean? Am I supposed to always have a smile on my face and go, all right, it's another day of antinatalism talk, and yeah, I'm going to get all faggoty and fun. Yeah, let's all be faggoty and fun, because that way we'll be credible witnesses and testifiers to our brilliant philosophy. This is the philosophy of happy antinatalism. Oh, it's really cool that we're just bastard motherfucking cunt replicating molecules, scheming to steal energy and get some booty from all the other fucking things and get as much crap as we can because we're selfish fuckers. And oh, isn't that great? Oh, yay for being selfish fuckers. What is there to be happy about, you stupid fuck? You look out at the world, at, whatever, anyway, a third of the human population living on $2 a day. Oh, yeah, let's all be happy. What a success we are. Ooh. Billions of animals in fucking torture chambers waiting for their death. Yeah, happy. Fuck you, cunt. Or, someone who, I guess Doug Stanhope, he's a good comic, he's an antinatalist. But I've never met someone that isn't particularly bitter about life, which he definitely is. And that's something that I see that's very interesting. But
people lamenting the Holocaust aren't all, in their party hat and their big clown feet shoes either. People who lament bigotry or some other fucking vice of the human race. Oh, this is just disgusting.
This is not something that I necessarily want to be examined for the earlier part of the video. But those are my thoughts. I don't really think I want to
fuck you. That's right, because you're an idiot.
More
good.
Because
you're an idiot.
Issue.
You're an idiot.
I'd rather move on to.
And you're a retard. Yeah, I don't think you have anything.
But yeah, thanks for watching.
I don't think you can make an interesting video. I really don't. Yeah, I think you're done. Yeah, there's no way. You lost all credibility. You're just whining about semantics. That's all you did. You whined about semantics like a little pussy girl. Anyway. People. Too stupid. Yeah, I mean, there's no argument here. Was there an argument here? You can't use the word broken to describe things that are dysfunctional. Excuse me.